Like nothing I could do, felt like nothing I could do would change the sobriety patterns, felt like nothing I could do would stand up for him, and nothing I did made him stop hitting me. Nothing.
Actress Amber Heard testified for a second day in the defamation case brought by her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. She was on the stand for 2 hours describing their relationship and how it turned abusive.
Yeah, so earlier in the trial, we heard from Depp, who denied being physically and verbally abusive. He admits he battled addiction problems and went through detox. It
has been quite the trial, and to talk about it, we've invited our legal analyst, Whitney Traylor, here to join the discussion this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Well, good morning. It's good to be here and to get into this juicy case.
It is a crazy case, isn't it? Yeah. So what is a defamation case?
Right, that's a great starting place. So defamation comes in two forms, libel and slander. And so libel is essentially a written defamation. And so it's a statement that's going to harm your reputation, communicated to a third party, causes damages, and is false. And so that's why what's important about these defamation cases is that you have to actually have a trial about whether or not whatever they accuse you of happened. So in other words, when she said he's a domestic violence, a wife abuser, these kind of things, he has to go in and prove that those things are not true, because truth is a defense. And so that's actually what happened with the case against the British Sun. He sued the British Sun in 2018 for defamation because they called him a wife beater. And they went to trial, and all of the evidence came out, and the court ruled against him, saying that, yeah, there was evidence that she felt fear for her life.
Yeah. And there's been really evidence on both sides at this point that they were both violent, and the judges have confirmed that at this point. I mean, there's so many details we're trying to unpack with this.
Yes.
He's suing her for $50 million. She's counter-suing for $100 million. So for the everyday person, how is this case impacting us?
Right. Well, it's a great point. I mean, one, I think there's this social component, which you said, there's all these facts, and people are really coming out as pro Johnny Depp, and I'm not making a judgment against that, but the evidence that's actually come into trial is that there was significant abuse on both sides. It was a very toxic relationship. They both testified to that. So the fact that initially I was thinking, well, this highlights kind of domestic violence towards men, because that's not what you normally see. But apparently there's about 1 in 7 relationships a man is actually being abused. But I think the maybe bigger point is that the public perception has not been exactly what has been presented at trial, which is that there was abuse on both sides. That's been in evidence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the public is definitely coming down on his side for whatever reason. Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, I saw some reports, they actually requested, Amber Heard's attorney requested a survey. Basically, there was a number of bot Twitter accounts.
Yep.
And so they said that kind of bumped it up. But then there's also the element that we've grown up. We've seen Johnny Depp for 20 years. He's more famous. He's in these very fun-loving roles. And so
he's the drunken pirate. Hey.
Right, exactly. And that was the allegations, that it was when he was drinking and abusing drugs that he got especially violent. That's what came out in the testimony.
Wow.
And something that's interesting, too, is like Depp's exes are saying that this is not in his character, that he wasn't violent and he wasn't abusive, but that her exes have said that she was in the past.
Right. And so that actually supports Johnny Depp. But remember, he's the plaintiff, so he has the burden of proof. So if the jury comes away and says, look, I can't tell, I think it's 50-50, he essentially loses. So he has to prove affirmatively that, hey, just by a slight margin, but he has to show that these things, he did not do these things. Remember, because she's saying he abused me, and he's saying, no, I didn't. So the burden is on him, which is going to be tough because there's been evidence that there was violence.
And since there is violence alleged, a lot of people think that this is a criminal case, but this is not. It's a civil case, right?
Right. There haven't been criminal charges filed. A lot of this stuff dates back to 2015, so there's probably a statute of limitations. But yeah, this is completely civil, and the issue is he's saying that I lost these various roles and things, and that's really the tough thing about defamation. Normally, it's sort of this embarrassment factor, but here he may actually have damages to say this, franchise dropped me because of these allegations.
Yeah, it's a lot of he said, she said in this one.
Yes.
But, so despite public opinion, how has the case shaped up so far? And who do you think's going to come out on top? Because at this point, I'm not sure.
Exactly. And as you mentioned earlier, she has a counterclaim for $100 million. And normally that would happen in the same trial. Apparently they're, I think, bifurcating. So they're going to do that one later. So as it relates to Johnny Depp's claim, because he has the burden of proof, and he has, I think it's going to be a tough time to show that he didn't do these things, because there's a lot of evidence that he did. Her restraining order, there were a number of other witnesses, there were psychologists who testified. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for Johnny Depp.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that psychologist that they both saw when they were together said that they believe there was mutual abuse.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a lot. Whitney, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, this trial is going to continue throughout the week. There's going to be more testimony, so we will all be staying tuned.
I'll come back and chat about it.
Stay tuned, please do. All right.
All right.